Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today for this yoga class. I hope you're all staying safe and doing the best you can in our really bizarre circumstances. So we're going to start out with the centering. So make sure that you've got whatever you need with you. A belt or a strap of some kind will be handy, block or something that looks like a block. Any kind of a blanket or cushion that you can sit comfortably on is also a good idea. And of course, your yoga mat. So get yourself settled. I'm just going to give you a few minutes here to make sure that you can get everything that you need. And we'll start with the centering. So we'll be doing a short breath meditation once you're settled. And I have not done this before. So, I mean, I've been recorded before teaching, but I haven't done this kind of thing where I'm live. So yeah, we're in new territory here, all of us. So once you get yourself and all your stuff together, take a good seat, or if you prefer, you can lie down. And you just want to have a nice long spine so that you can breathe easily. And we'll begin with our eyes closed, connecting to your breath. So find a comfortable breath for yourself. And you're going to use your breath as the anchor for your mind today. So our minds, especially now, I think can be very busy and cluttered up with all kinds of things, from how you're going to structure your day, concern for loved ones in your life, wondering what our future is going to be like in the next days, weeks, and maybe months. So the idea here is not that we can shut our mind off, but that we're going to try to continue to refocus it back to the breath. And one of the things you can do is just reassure your mind that it can think and plan and do all the things it's used to doing. But for now, you want to give it a break. You want to give it a thinking break. And so anytime you notice that your attention has left your breath and the present moment, just gently shift your focus back to the breath. You can feel your breath, so noticing how the breath is entering your body, how it fills, how it empties, the feeling of it. But you can also silently repeat any words that help your mind to stay focused. So saying breathing in when you're inhaling and breathing out when you're exhaling can be a good way to do that. If you have a mantra, if you have a phrase or a sound that you currently use in meditation, you can use that. But just keep coming back to your breath. Feel it move in your body. And you may want to take a few deep breaths to begin with, just to get that process started. And then feel your breath. Feel how you fill your body with each inhale. All the places that open up with your breath. And then following it to the end of each inhalation, to the fullness of it. And then emptying and feeling how your body releases your breath and lets it go. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. If you discover your mind has left the breath, maybe distracted by a sound, sensation, thoughts, As soon as you realize it, just gently guide it back to the feeling of your breath, perhaps to the sound of your breath, or to your mental repetition of words. Breathing in and breathing out. Just letting everything settle. Just for now, all you need to do is breathe and feel your breath moving in and feel your breath moving out. Now go ahead and take the next few moments to check in with yourself. So noticing how you are as you start your practice today. Noticing how your body is feeling this morning. Are there any areas of your body that need some extra attention today? Noticing any other dimensions of being that are important to acknowledge. So how you're doing mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Whenever you've had the time you need to check in, go ahead and lie on your back. Make sure that you have a belt nearby. We'll be working with a belt shortly, but once you get on your back, just begin by stretching out, taking your arms overhead, and adding any kind of movement to that feels good for your body. So you can hug your knees to your chest. You can move your spine by stretching out and side bending on your back. You can twist, many different ways you can twist. You can move your head, so turning your head back and forth to warm up your neck. So just give yourself some time to stretch out, to move a little bit on your back. And then we'll begin with the lying down big toe stretch, which we'll do all three versions of it. You can, if you have a blanket, you can unfold it so it's a big rectangle and then fold it in half. And place it so that the folded edge is towards your feet. And you'll sit in front of it. So you want the folded edge to hit right about the middle of your sacrum so that it holds you in a slight forward tilt of the pelvis. If you don't have a blanket, don't worry. Just have a slight tilt of your pelvis forward. And then you'll take your belt, place it around your right foot, and we'll start with the first Supta Padang Uttanasana stretch, which we're going to use the technique called proprioceptic neuromuscular facilitation. So that's just a fancy way of saying we're going to make the muscles get tired to allow us to stretch more effectively. So what I'm going to be doing is pressing my leg towards in that direction, but I'm not going to let it move. So I'm extending my arms, I'm holding this belt really firmly, but I'm pushing really hard. So if I were to touch your heel, I should not be able to push it forward or towards your head, because you're really working very, very hard to press it in the opposite direction. And you should start to feel your leg muscles getting tired, getting fatigued. So you're going to push until you feel fatigue, and how long that is up to you and your leg. But once I start to feel that my leg is getting tired, maybe a little trembly, then I stop pushing. So I just relaxed all my muscles, but you probably didn't see much of anything. Now I'm going to move into the stretch. And so the beginning part of the stretch will almost feel effortless, but then I get to this point here and I'm feeling my hamstrings at this point. So I'm going to stop where I start to feel the stretch. That's going to be my starting point for my next set. So once again, I'm going to start to push my leg towards in the direction of here, so forward. But I'm not letting the leg move. So it's just this internal feeling of my leg is working very hard. Maybe it'll feel a little bit trembly. And I'm going to continue to push as hard as I can until I feel my leg has gotten tired. So my leg is tired now. I'm going to stop pushing. So you don't really see much of anything. I just stop pushing, let my leg muscles relax. And now again, I'm going to move into stretch. So I just moved into stretch, and now I feel the resistance of my hamstring. I'm going to stop here. And what you'll do is either just take 3 or 4 breaths in the sensation of stretch. But if your hamstrings are tighter, or if the sensation feels really hard to stay with for 3 or 4 breaths, then what you can do is stretch on your exhalation, 1,000, 2,000, and then on your inhale, let the leg go back a little bit so it's not so intense. And then again, stretch more on the exhalation, just 1 or 2 seconds, holding the deepest stretch, and then you release it a bit. Now from here, we're going to move into the second lying big toe stretch. So I'm going to take both ends of the belt into my right hand, and I'm going to externally rotate my leg and start to bring it now to the side. So I'm taking it towards the floor, and I can also draw it back. So just find a place where the sensation is something you can hang out with a bit. Again, you can move in and out of stretch. So here's me moving deeper into the stretch, and then I'm coming a little bit out of the stretch, and going deeper. Pelvis is staying squared to the floor. I'm not twisting. Okay, so I'm trying to keep my torso on the floor just like it is. And as I move in this stretch here, I start to get a little bit more release. So you can see my leg going a little bit more towards the floor as I work with the stretch. Take a few more breaths in this stretch here off to the side. And then when you are finished, you'll let the leg lift itself up. So I'm using those inner thigh muscles to get the leg to come back up again. Now I'm going to extend the other leg out straight, switch the belt to my other hand, and I'm going to take my right arm and stretch it straight out from the shoulder. Now I'm going to move into the third variation, which is a twist. So for this one, this buttock is going to come off the floor. And I'm extending. I'm going to actually press right into my little table here, and it just happens to be in the right place. So you can modify the stretch by moving your limbs, either for a deeper stretch, you move this way, so I take the leg that way, or I take the arm that way. If I need to moderate the sensation, make it less, I can move my limbs that way, so in the opposite direction, and that lets me tailor the stretch to what feels right for my body today. So you're in the third variation now, the lying down big toe stretch. And then after a few breaths in this position, you'll go ahead and bring that leg back up. And we'll switch sides. So I'm going to get fancy and do a mid-air switcheroo. So taking my other foot up. This one I'm coming back down again to the floor. And then I'm going to do the first stretch where I'm using that technique, the P and F technique. So I'm going to start to push my leg that way, but I'm keeping it from moving by providing resistance with my belt and my arms. But I'm pushing as hard as I can because I want to get this leg tired as fast as possible. So I continue to push. And then at some point, I'll decide my leg is tired enough, as will you. At that point, you basically just stop pushing. So I'm stopping pushing right now. My leg didn't really move, but I want to wait till I've relaxed all the muscles in the leg, and then I start to move into the stretch. So the beginning part of the stretch, it's effortless, it just goes, but now I feel the hamstrings here. So I stop, and I'm going to repeat this once more from my new starting point. So I'm doing it again now. I'm pressing the leg away from my head. I'm pushing as hard as I can, but I'm not letting the leg move because I've got my arms and belt providing the resistance. And I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until I feel the leg get tired at that point. So now I'm going to relax. I stop pushing. I'm waiting till I feel the muscles release. Then I move again into the stretch. And now I'm going to just stay in the stretch for 3 to 4 breaths. Again, you can move in deeper and then release it. So as I exhale, I'm going to move deeper into the stretch 1 or 2 breaths, and then I inhale and I release it. But you can also, if you're happy just holding the stretch, you can do that too. So either way is fine. And then once you've had your 3 or 4 breaths, then you're going to take both ends of the belt into your left hand and externally rotate the leg. So I'm going to turn it in the hip socket and start to take the leg to the side here. And for this stretch, I'm keeping my pelvis level, keeping my whole torso just flat on the ground, on the blanket if you have a blanket, or just on the floor or your mat. And just hold the stretch again for maybe 5 or 6 breaths. You can also go in and out of the stretch. So if I'm doing that, I'm coming out of the stretch, and then as I exhale, I'm going deeper into the stretch just for 1 or 2 seconds, and then coming out a little bit. But this again is your choice depending on how it feels in your body. And then you can go ahead and let the leg lift itself back up. So when you're ready, you're going to let the leg lift itself up. Switch hands. Go ahead and extend that right leg now. My left arm is going to go straight out from the shoulder, and now I'm going to come into the twist here. And again, you can modify the twist by moving your left leg and your left arm. If you want more sensation, more stretch, bring them towards your head. If you want less, bring the limbs towards your foot or your extended foot. And then you're going to be several breaths here in your twist. When you're ready, you'll bring that leg back up again. You can take the belt off your foot and then place both feet on the floor, about as wide as your sticky mat, and just do some windshield wiper legs. So think intermittent windshield wiper, but the pace you go can be what feels good for your body. So some of you might like to go quicker, some a little slower, but just going back and forth. And then you'll drop both knees to the right and just let them stay there. You can take your right foot to the outside of the left knee here. You don't have to do this. This stretches the IT band here on the outside of the leg. But if it doesn't feel good, especially for your knee, then let your foot come off. If you like the feeling, you can even press harder. So I can push down here to get even more stretch there. And then I'm going to add a little more juiciness to my torso and my shoulder joints by bringing both arms overhead and bowing out through my left side. So I'm going to kind of bow a little bit to my right so I can get more stretch all through the waist and the rib cage here and through the left shoulder here. Take a few deep breaths here, breathing into the space you're creating on your left waist and left ribs. And then you can slide the foot off. Go ahead and bring both legs back up to center. And then we'll go to the other side. So I'm going to drop both knees now over to the left. So start by just letting the weight of the legs go to the floor. See how that feels. And then you can take the left foot to the outside of your right knee. The arms are overhead, and now we're bowing out, giving that right side a nice opening. So you're stretching out from the pelvis, extending kind of through the thigh bone so that you feel the stretch in the outside of your leg and in your hip a little bit, but then you're reaching up through the right waist, through the shoulder joint, from the shoulder joint, and breathing into the space that you're creating on your right side body right now. And then you can slide your foot off the knee. Go ahead and bring both legs back up to center. And then any kind of movement that just seems like a good idea you can do here before we change positions. So you can do knee circles. You can just hug your knees into your chest. You can do any other kind of movement that just feels good to your body. And then when you're ready, you're going to come on up. We're going to come on to hands and knees next. So if your knees like extra padding, grab your blanket or any kind of padding you have available. And we'll come into table pose. So once you're on your hands and knees, spine is long. And we'll do some cat, cow, child poses. So cow, lifting your tail, back bending, lifting your head, and then as you exhale, rounding your back, howling cat, and shifting back to an extended child's pose. And just repeat that a few more times. And then coming back to table pose, we'll come into balancing table. But first, let's do a nice stretch for the lower leg. So I'm going to take my left leg, turn my toes under. Actually, let me take my socks off here. So I'm going to turn my toes under and reach back through my heel. I'm using my arms as well to push back, keeping my spine long, so I'm not dropping my head down. And I'm just reaching back in a nice stretch to the calf, the lower leg here. And then from here, coming into balancing table. So then we'll lift my leg up, squaring my hips. Go ahead and lift my arm up. Draw my navel up towards the spine. And then to add a little more fun to the balance, I'm going to start to shift my hips forward, taking the weight off my toes, and seeing if I can get them to just float away from the floor to some degree. And then you can put everything back down. Go ahead and cat-cow a couple of times. And then nice stretch to the calf on the right side. So turning the right toes under and reaching back through the heel. So continue with that stretch. I'm checking in on you guys. Good. Okay, so once you've gotten a good stretch to your calf, then go ahead and lift your leg up and we'll come into balancing table. So the right leg is up, the left arm is up. And give yourself a few moments to just find your balance there. Draw your navel up towards your spine. Keep a steady breath. And then when you're ready to challenge yourself a little bit more, start to shift your hips forward, taking the weight off that left foot. And see if you can allow it to just float away from the floor. It's fine if it comes up and down. So just taking your weight off the foot is going to make balance more challenging. So that's just, basically the point, is we're trying to get our balance to be a little more challenged. Keep your breath steady. And then when you're ready, you can put everything back onto the floor and cat-cow child a couple of times. And then from here, let's come into downward facing dog. So whenever you're ready, turn your toes under, lift your hips up, sit bones up and back. Reach, reach, reach through your arms from your shoulder blades, through the arm bones, hands to the floor. Activate your hands, so make sure your hands are really strong. Lift the sit bones up as high as you can. And then reach down from your sit bones through the leg bones, reaching your heels towards the floor. And then, you can walk your dog, so you can rotate your hips, wag your dog's tail. You can reach your heels towards the floor. And whatever movements feel like a good idea for you in this downward facing dog. Maybe the first dog of the day. Let's move into a couple of dog planks next. So with an inhale, go ahead and shift your shoulders forward to plank pose. And looking up, make sure your spine is nice and long. Exhale and plank, and then inhale, coming back into downward facing dog. And holding with your exhale. So just one breath per pose. Back and forth, and do this 5 or 6 times to start to build up some heat here. So you're inhaling into the pose, you're holding with your exhale, then you're inhaling into the other pose and hold with your exhale. As you come forward into plank pose, focus on the power that you're trying to maintain. So pushing out through the arms, engaging your core, using your leg muscles to keep really strong in your plank pose. When you move into your downward facing dog, focus on getting as long as you can. So on creating space, on lengthening your spine by lifting your sit bones up, stretching down through the legs. Now, when you are next in downward facing dog, go ahead and finish your exhalation and then use an inhale to step your right leg forward. So I'm going to step my right leg up, take my back foot to the floor, come up to standing. And then I'm moving into a warrior two. So make sure your back foot is parallel to the back of your mat, heels are lined up, and then front knee will bend to about 90 degrees. So you can decide how far apart you want your legs to be, but you're trying to approach 90 degrees or get where you can for that. Once you've got your legs arranged, arms lift up and stretch straight out from the shoulders. And you're pressing really strongly through your legs as you do this warrior two. Keep your breath steady. And then we'll move to the second side. So when you're ready, you're going to release your arms, straighten your front leg, and now turn your front leg in and your back leg out. And come into warrior two on your second side. So pushing strongly through your legs. And with your arms, you want to both draw in, so you're pulling the arm bone in. You want to feel your shoulder blade engaging on your back. But then you're also extending back out. So there's a feeling of balance between the engagement to pull in to the shoulder sockets, but also lengthening out through your arms. And you can, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, try turning the corners of your mouth up. That's the advanced pose. Now release the arms and go ahead and switch your feet again. So we're going to come into a triangle pose next. If you like to use a block for your triangle pose, you can grab it. So we'll switch the feet. Legs are now straight, so make sure you're engaging your thigh muscles here. So you're pushing, again, strongly into your legs. And then when you're ready, you'll lift your arms and start to extend out over that front leg. Get as long as you can get. And your hand is going to either come down to a block or your leg or the floor, wherever it reaches. And again, you're really pressing out strongly through both legs. Be careful that your head is not doing something funky by just hanging down. You want to keep your neck extended here. Keep opening through the heart. Keep pressing through the legs and breathing. With an inhale, come back up. Try to feel all the muscles you're using in your core and your legs to shift your position. Now we're going to turn the right foot in, the left foot out. If you're using a block, you may want to move it. And then start by engaging your leg muscles, pushing strongly through the legs. So your feet should feel like they're very much rooted onto your mat. And then when you're ready, arms lift up and you start to extend through the sides of your waist, getting as long as you can get through here. Then your arm comes down to wherever it lands. Other arm is straight up. And you're moving your chest more skyward here. So make sure that you're not locking your knees. You're using your leg muscles, staying really strong through the legs. Open through the chest. You're breathing. And then with an inhale, coming up, again, feel the muscles that you're using to come out of the pose as well as when you come in. So now you're going to turn both of your feet forward, and we'll come into a wide-legged forward bend. And we're going to juice up this forward bend by doing some different movement in it besides simply bending forward. So you want to bend from your hip joint, which is here. So lift your chest, take your shoulders back, and shift forward, coming onto your fingertips. You can also put your hands on a block. So what I want you to do is have a long spine. So let me show you from the side. So as you're coming into the forward bend, I want to bend from here and have a long spine. So I'm not rounding at all. And depending on what your body can do, you might need to be higher up to have a long spine. Some of you might be able to bend more deeply here. And then to juice up this pose, we can just move our torso and our hips in different ways and our legs so that we start to feel stretching in other places. So one thing I can do is I can shift my hips back and stretch my arms forward. And that's going to give more stretch for the hamstrings, but also gets me a little more into my low back. I can also shift forward. So shift my hips forward, walk my hands forward. And that's going to give a little more stretch to the lower legs. There. I can bend one knee and shift my hips from side to side. So I like to call this speed skater. And that helps get into the inner thighs a little bit more. And then I can even do things like twist. Okay, so I can walk my hands to either side, take a hand to the hip, lift up and twist. So any of those movements that feel good in your body, just let yourself go with that. Okay, so when you've had enough fun with that, you can come back up to standing and then step your feet together. Good. So we're going to work our feet out a little bit with the heel balance and the toe balance. So I'm going to just pull this up a little bit so you can see my feet here. So for the first part, we're going to be coming up to the balls of the feet and the toes and just coming up and down. So practicing balance here. You can use a wall for this. So if you find that it's difficult to not roll your feet from one side to the other, then I would either have a wall behind me or in front of me just so you can touch something so that you can lift up and stay balanced. So you're really working the muscles of the feet and the lower leg here, just coming up and down. So go ahead and do that maybe like 10 times, something like that. This is actually kind of cool. Okay, so once you've done that about 10 times, then we're going to do the heel balance, which is definitely harder. So for the heel balance, we're trying to rock back onto the heels, lifting the toes up. And again, this one, it is harder. So you have to be willing to walk backwards maybe, like that. Because if you're too cautious, then you'll do something like this where your toes are coming up, but you're not balancing on the heels, and you want to get the heels balanced. I find that if I hinge a little bit forward, that helps me to counterbalance. But whatever way works for you, again, use a wall if that helps you to be able to get up, because you're trying to get as much lift as you can with your foot. So we're not only are we working on strengthening all the muscles that are in the lower leg of the feet, but we're working on the range of motion of the ankle joint, trying to make that better. So try that a couple more times. I like to do these two individually to work on the strength of the muscles to help to counter a lot of the imbalances that we have in our lower legs, because our feet are encased in shoes so much of our lives. The muscles get weak because they're not being used. So doing them individually is useful for that. But then we're going to challenge our balance more by putting them both together. So now we're going to be moving from one to the other. So I'm going to come up onto the balls of my feet and toes, and then I'm going to rock back to my heels. And I'm going to try to go back and forth between these two. By the way, my arms are up. Your arms can be wherever you want them to be. I've seen people do this with their arms just down, with their arms going back. So it's kind of whatever works for you. But you're just moving back and forth, coming all the way up, and then coming back there. So back and forth. All right. And it's okay to smile when you do this. I think it really helps. All right, so we're going to move into some other balancing poses now. So the next thing that we're going to do is a tree pose. And I call this baby power tree because it's not the usual tree pose where you quickly take your foot up as high on your leg as you can. We're actually going to keep it down low to the ground, just above the ankle. But when we come into it this way, and in a slower way, it actually engages a lot more of our balancing muscles, especially the small ones, that if you quickly just bring your leg up here, most of the muscles in this leg don't get used. And we rely more on the bones holding us up. So instead, what you're going to do, we'll be standing on the left leg first, but you're going to first just turn your right leg out to the side and then bring the foot over so the heel is resting right above your ankle bone. And then once it's there, then you can do whatever you want with your arms. And once it's there, you're going to start to lift the toes away from the floor. So this is baby power tree, because if you are here for not that long, you'll start to feel that from your foot all the way up to your hip, that you're engaging a lot of muscles that normally aren't being used when we do this pose by lifting the leg up quickly. So you're just going to stay here until you start to feel like the fatigue in that leg. Okay, so I'm starting to feel fatigue in my leg now, again, from my foot all the way up into muscles in my thigh and up to the hip. And then if you want to move your foot, you can. So you can take it onto the lower leg, you can take it above the knee, and then you're going to start to push the standing leg and the foot equally together. So it's not necessarily push as hard as you can, it's push evenly. So that keeps the legs, the foot and the leg engaged. And then again, you can do whatever you want with your hands. You can come into Namaste. You can go ahead and lift your arms up straight or bring them into Namaste above your head. You can do anything you want. You can have your tree branches waving in the wind. So anything you want to do here is fine. And your legs should start to feel pretty darn tired. So when you start to feel that, then you can stop and give that leg a little shake. Give yourself a little happy dance. And then we'll move to the other side. So when you're ready, your right leg is now going to be your balancing leg. So shift your weight there, externally rotate your left leg. So turn it out. And one thing that will help that is if you stick your butt out a little bit. So if my hips are even slightly forward like this, and I turn my leg out, that's as far as it goes. But if I stick my butt out a little bit, then that's as far as it goes. It goes completely sideways. So you by sticking your butt out, you're getting the thigh bone more centered in your hip socket. And that allows you to have your full range of motion with whatever your thigh bone can do in the hip socket. Okay. So you're going to rotate it out. You're going to slide the foot over, heel above the ankle bone, and then start to shift your weight onto your right leg so that the left toes start coming away from the floor. And you're just going to hold baby power tree for a bit here until you start to feel all these muscles kick in, all the balancing muscles. So it doesn't take that long before you start to feel from the foot all the way up the leg into these hip muscles here, the thigh muscles. You should start to feel all these things kicking in and singing happy songs to you about baby power tree. And then once you start to feel that all these muscles are engaged, that they're working, then if you would like to move your foot, go ahead and move your foot. You can move it to the lower leg like I'm doing here. You can bring it up higher if you wish. And then equal force. So the standing leg has to press equally into your foot. And that's what keeps them from sliding, is that equal force. So it's not just doing it as hard as you can, it's doing it evenly. And then you can do whatever you want with your branches, with your arms. And then you're just going to hang out in your tree pose for a little bit longer. Of course, you can come out when you need to, but you're trying to wait until you start to really feel that leg getting tired. And then when you're ready, you can take it down. And again, happy dance. Shake the leg out a little bit. Okay, now we're going to move into side plank pose. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a lot of side plank variations in my classes. I found 8 different ways to do side plank. So who would have thunk it? But there are many ways. So the first one I'm going to show you is a side plank push-up. And this is not like your normal push-up because it's not your arms that are pushing. Your arms stay straight and you're instead moving your hips. So it's really working your core a lot. So let me show. So coming into downward dog first, then I'm going to come into side plank. So I'm going to turn one of my feet onto the little toe side. And this is important with your foundation. So you want your foot to be really strong. I'm going to stack the other foot right above it. And you can let your arm assist you here. So you can see I have this hand on the floor here. So the push-up is the lifting of your hips up and then dropping down and lift up, dropping down and lifting up. So these, you're not going to do like a lot of them. Do a couple. Do 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Use your hand if that helps you to hold your balance. If you don't need your hand, you saw I put my hand on just on the side of my waist. I'm not lifting it up in the air. But you're going to lower, and how low you go with your hips also is up to you. So modifications can be made by not lowering your hips as low, just lowering them a little bit and then lifting up. So let's see. Are you ready to give it a try? So you can come into downward facing dog first. And then turn, let's start with the left toe. So turn the left foot in on the little toe side of the foot. And then flex that foot. So really make that foot super strong, like you're standing on it. And then your other foot is going to go on top. And then you can start to let the hips come down and then lift up. So when you lift up, you're actually bowing the right waist a little bit. And then you're letting the hips come down to some degree. So the arm stays straight the whole time. If you're using your right arm as well, that's just more kind of on your fingers, like spider fingers. So you're using it to both balance and to support some of your weight if you need to do that. And then you're just going to do, 2, 3, 4 times, whatever works for your body. And then once you finish that, you can come back into downward dog, or you can do anything that seems like a good idea before we do the second side. So when you're ready for the second side, again, you're going to come back into a downward facing dog. Now you'll be turning the right foot in on the little toe side, stacking your feet. And actually, you can take your top foot in front. I didn't say this before, but you can't do that. Ugh. And if it helps you to make noises, it helps me. That's why I make them. But then doing that, letting your hips come down and lifting up again. You've all disappeared. I know you're there, but I can't. No, you haven't all disappeared. I see. Oh, there you are. Okay. So again, we don't have to do lots of these because they're pretty intense, but it's really, really working that the core muscles. Yeah, you're really working those core muscles. All right, so when you're done with that, then let's come back up to standing. So we're going to come into Warrior 3 next. So another balancing pose. And you can do Warrior 3 with modifying how high the leg gets raised. So the things I want you to concentrate on the most are having your torso close to parallel to the floor, and then shifting your weight to your balancing leg. And then the leg that gets lifted, you might just take it a little away from the floor, or if you're feeling pretty steady, you can take it up higher. But it will look like this. I'm going to start out with my left leg as my balancing leg first. So I've got my right leg a little bit behind me here, just with the toes turned under. Okay. So my main weight is on my forward leg, but I've got some weight on this back leg for now. I'm going to externally rotate my arms and then press them back. So I'm doing that to engage all my back muscles, okay, and my arm muscles. And then from this position, with my chest nice and lifted, my spine long, I'll hinge forward. And so I'm coming close to parallel to the floor. And right now, my weight is definitely on both my legs, okay? So then from here, I'm going to start to shift my weight off my back leg. So I'm going to shift forward. You can see me shifting forward, okay? If the weight is coming off this foot, you can see how my toes can come away from the floor. Okay, so depending on how steady you're feeling, your pose might look like this, with the toes just periodically coming up and down. If you're feeling steadier, you can start to lift the leg higher. And that's up to you, because as long as you're bearing your weight on your standing leg and your torso is pretty much parallel to the floor, you're getting the main benefits of this balancing pose, even if your leg doesn't get that high up. Okay? So when you're ready, you'll start in mountain pose. Shift your weight to your left leg and step your right foot back a little ways away. Okay, externally rotate your arms and press them back until you feel your back muscles. So you should feel your shoulder blades are firm on your back and all your back muscles are starting to get engaged, and even your arms. So, and you want to enliven your arms all the way to the fingertips. Okay, so they're not just flapping in the wind here, right? Then start to hinge forward. So bending from your hip joint, try to get your torso as close to parallel as you can, but not lower than that. So you can be a little higher, but don't go lower. So you don't want to be bending beneath your hips, okay? Once you're there, make sure your arms are really active and lively, and then begin to slowly shift your weight forward. So starting to feel the weight being held by your left leg, and you're letting the right leg start to get lighter on the floor. Okay. And then you're playing with it. So yeah, make sure that you're having fun here. Yeah, so some days are good balancing days and some days aren't, but don't attach to the look of the pose, to it turning out in a specific way. It's your effort right now that's important. It's your willingness to play with the pose despite how it's unfolding today. So it may unfold well, and that's cool, but if it doesn't, it's still your effort. It's just what you're willing to do, how you're working. That's what's most important. So engaging those arm muscles, engaging the back muscles, hinging forward, take your time, and let the weight start to slowly come off that back foot. So even if your toes keep touching the floor, if your weight is primarily on your standing leg, you're getting all the benefits from doing this pose. When you've had enough fun with that side, you may stop and do any other movement that seems like a good idea. So any kind of counter pose that would feel good in your body. So you might do a forward bend, but you might also just stand up in mountain pose. You might lift your arms up and side bend. Whatever just seems like a good idea for your body, do that. And then we'll move on to the second side. Okay, so it looks like you're ready for second side. So coming into mountain pose, once more. You're gonna shift your weight to your right leg and just step your left foot back a little bit away from the right foot. And your weight can be balanced between both legs to start with. Externally rotate the arms. Press them back, let your chest lift. And then when you're ready, start to hinge forward. Once you get to here, then start to shift your weight off the back foot and on to your right leg. Take your time. So just move slowly. Keep your arms active. So it's easy to forget about your upper body in this pose because our focus becomes so much on that standing leg and taking the back leg off that we forget about our upper body. But by staying integrated and active through your back and your arms, you're actually creating stability in your body that will help with the balance. So you want to keep that focus on the whole body and just making the effort. Keep breathing. Smile. It's just a yoga pose. So it's good for you to struggle a little bit with some of these things because that's what's building the resolve mentally and physically for these shapes. So it's less important what the final thing looks like and more important that you're just practicing being totally present, breathing, inhale, exhale, repeat, making the effort to try. Notice if you start feeling frustrated. And that's a good time to smile. If you notice that you're starting to feel a little frustrated with how things are turning out. Okay. So we're going to come down to sit and do a couple things on the floor. And we'll be finishing up with a nice relaxation exercise called the 61 points. So I'll be rewarding you with a nice relaxation once we're done with the movement. But let's come down to sit, and you may want a blanket if it's hard for you to maintain a forward tilt of your pelvis. So here's not a forward tilt of the pelvis. You can see how I'm kind of rounding my pelvis. It's actually kind of tucked. And so if I want to tilt it forward, I've got to really lift up, and it helps to just kind of pull the buttock flesh out to the back at that forward tilt. So the sacrum is kind of moving slightly in. But if that's hard to do, that's when a blanket can be very useful, a very useful prop. So if I take a blanket, I'm going to fold it like this, and then I come onto the blanket, but I don't want to just sit back here. I can have bad posture sitting on a blanket. You can see this is what I'm doing right now. But to use it as a tool, what I'm going to do is lift up here, and I'm going to scoot forward until I feel my two sit bones just slightly come over the edge of the blanket. Okay, so I have them just slightly over the edge. The fleshy part of the buttocks is on the blanket, but my sit bones are actually right in front of the edge. And that, now that I've done that, it's holding me in this forward tilt. So at this point, I could have bad posture, but it's a lot harder. So it gives me some nice support here, all right? So I'm gonna start in stick pose. So just sitting with your chest lifted, shoulders are back. See if you can snuggle your shoulder blades kind of in towards your spine. And I like to just put my hands on the floor by my side here. And that's just, it's really to kind of remind me that by a little push into the floor to keep lifting up through my spine, lifting my chest up, so that I have this nice extension through my torso. And then I'm going to begin to move into forward bend dynamically. So what that means is I'm going to exhale as I hinge, and then inhale as I come back. So we'll do about 10 or 12 breaths. So don't try to go as far as you can. You're only going to go as far as you can go from your hip joint without rounding your back. Okay, so not this, okay, not this, but lifting here, and bending from my hip joint. And so I start to feel the stretch without going very far at all. I feel it right there. And some people will, you know, depends on your body. Some of you might be able to hinge forward more, some less. If you are tighter in your hamstrings or in your back, then start back further. So instead of being 90 degrees here, start back. So this is your beginning so that you can feel that you're doing some movement here. And you'll be exhaling as you stretch, inhaling as you come out of the stretch. And you're just going, like I said, 10 to 12 breaths. So you're gradually kind of waking up the hamstrings here, just gradually. Make sure that your head doesn't try to do the pose for you. Okay, so back of the head back, chin level, and you're hinging. The head is along for the ride. It's not in charge. Now, once you've done your 10 to 12 breaths, we're going to shift into Janu Shirshasana. So this is another forward bend, but we're going to change the position of the leg slightly. So I'm going to take the right leg and bend the knee out to the side. Now, if this knee is not happy or if it's up in the air to any degree, you'll want to support it. So you can support it with a blanket. so that it's not just kind of dangling in space. Okay, if your leg is like the top, my actual knee is not on the floor here. There's a space here, as you can see, but my leg is resting on the floor. So if my leg was up in the air like this is when I would want to put something here, block, pillow, blanket, anything like that, that would just help that leg to not be dangling in the air. Okay, and then we're going to add a twist to this. So you have your left leg extended, your right knee is bent. You're going to take your left arm to the leg and use the leg as kind of leverage to get your twist. So I'm going to push my hand into the leg, which means this leg has to be engaged. So my thigh muscles are engaged. My foot is active, it's flexed. I'm pressing the heel to the floor. I'm going to press my hand into the leg so I can twist towards my bent knee. Okay, and this other arm can just go on the floor behind you here. So into a twist like this. And then from here, I'm going to take this arm up and start to hinge forward or hinge towards the extended leg, emphasizing space in the waist here. And again, I'm moving dynamically. So as I exhale, I'm hinging. As I inhale, I'm coming back up. And I'm not collapsing. Okay, so I don't want to be collapsing here. I'm trying to keep really lifted here. And I'm just seeing where I can bend, basically from my hip joint. I keep the hand here, so I keep that twist. This arm up in the air. But if that doesn't work, you can just, put it wherever it feels like a good idea to put it. Okay. And you'll do, again, about 10 breaths, just moving dynamically. Focusing on keeping long through both sides of your waist. Yeah, that's it. Now, when you've finished on that side, you'll come back up, you'll unbend your right knee, straighten it out, maybe do a few windshield wiper legs or move in whatever way seems like a good idea before we move to the second side. So now you'll have your right leg be the extended leg. You're going to bend your left knee and take it out wider. The right leg is extended, left knee is bent, okay? And then I'm going to take my right hand to the lower leg and start to twist away. So that's the first thing. I'm getting my twist here. And then I'll lift up my left arm. I'm lifting up really long through both sides of my waist. And I'm pressing this hand in to maintain the twist. And then exhale as I move into it. Inhale back up. Exhale as I move in. Inhale back up. And again, about 10 breaths where you're moving in and out of the pose. Now, when you've finished your second side, you can unbend the bent leg and We're going to get ready for relaxation now. So if there's anything you need to get or any clothing items you want to put on so you're warm and you're comfortable, go ahead and get yourself set up. And of course, if there's any final movement you want to do before you lie down, go ahead and do that, knees to chest, or anything else that just your body really wants you to do to finish with the movement part and ready yourself for the relaxation part. Okay, looks like everybody's down. So first is just close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and feel yourself beginning to let go. So we'll be doing what's called the 61 points exercise. And we'll be moving our attention, our awareness to these different points on the body. So your body remains still. There's no movement in the body. So it's really important that you make any final adjustments now to your clothing, your props, your position, so you're really comfortable, but you can remain as still as possible through this exercise. So at each point that I direct your attention, you'll be moving your awareness to that place, and you can visualize a blue star or a point of light, or you can simply open to any feeling of or sensation or warmth or energy in that place. But there's no actual movement. So feel the weight of your body just letting go. And once you've taken a couple of deep breaths, release any desire to control the breath. Just allow yourself to be breathed. Just feel the movement of your breath and let your breath find its own pace. It's whatever is comfortable to you. Become aware of your whole body. The feeling of your whole body being supported by the earth. Feeling of your breath moving in and moving out. So we begin the practice with our attention at the eyebrow center. Again, you can picture a point of light, a blue star, or simply open to any sensation at the eyebrow center, any feeling of warmth or energy. Eyebrow center, point 1. Now shift down to the hollow of the throat, throat center, point 2. Center of the right shoulder joint, point 3. Center of the right elbow joint, point 4. Center of the right wrist, point 5. Tip of the right thumb, 0.6. Tip of the index finger, 0.7. Tip of the middle finger, 0.8. Tip of the ring finger, 0.9. Tip of the pinky, 0.10. Uh-oh, did this go off? Right wrist, 11. Right elbow, 12. Right shoulder, 13. Hollow of the throat, 14. Left shoulder, 15. Left elbow, 16. Left wrist, 17. Tip of the thumb, 18. Index finger, 19. Middle finger, 20. Ring finger, 21. Pinky finger, 22. Left wrist, 23. Elbow, 24. Shoulder, 25. Throat center, 26. Heart center, 27. Right chest, 28. Heart center, 29. Left chest, 30. Heart center, 31. Navel center, 32. Pelvic center, 33. Right hip, 34. Right knee, 35. Right ankle, 36. Right big toe, 37. Second toe, 38. Third toe, 39. Fourth toe, 40. Fifth toe, 41. Ankle, 42. Knee, 43. Hip, 44. Pelvic center, 45. Left hip, 46. Left knee, 47. Ankle, 48. Left big toe, 49. Second toe, 50. Third toe, 51. Fourth toe, 52. Fifth toe, 53. Ankle, 54. Knee, 55. Hip, 56. Pelvic center, 57. Navel center, 58. Heart center, 59. Throat center, 60. Eyebrow center, 61. So you guys are welcome to stay in Shavasana for a while longer, if you like. But the class is at an end for me. Thank you so much for joining me today. Stay safe. And hopefully we'll meet again virtually before too long. Take care, guys. Bye. Yes. Namaste, you guys.